And yeah, so I think my idea makes more sense for that movie. That's the only change I think that budget could have actually afford. That's the only change I think that budget could afford is this loop over. He'll make his dialogue in the film while recording in the studio. After recording in the studio. Michael Chiklis, I'm just going to say he wasn't the best part of the Fantastic Four franchise for me. I think Johnny Storm was the guy that played Johnny Storm, Chris Evans, was the highlight of both films. The second film would be Michael Chiklis, but that's only because I expect he's a much more talented actor than Chris Evans, in my opinion, who is also better known as live-action Captain America right now in the MCU that retired and went back in time, turned into an old man, passed the shield on to the Falcon, who, let's be honest, no one's ever going to care about the Falcon. I don't care about him. He looks cool and all, but he's not interesting or has identity outside of being a Captain America fanboy, unlike the comics. So, yeah, I don't see why he gave that to him instead of giving it to Bucky Barnes, which has more of an identity than Falcon. It's just stupid to me. Chris Evans did a better job playing Johnny Storm than he ever did of Captain America. I don't care what you people think. And I think that's mostly because Johnny Storm was more well-written in the two Fantastic Four films that Chris Evans starred in, because he was more consistent with his character. I mean, think about he's annoying and kind of impatient and doesn't take anything very seriously, a bit of a lazy man, but also a bit of a hothead as an impatient, and that's what hothead means, impatient, and but that's kind of who Johnny Storm always has been. I felt like it was too subtle, those elements of his character in the first one. And the sequel, I feel like it's just still too subtle, but it's much more presented, his personality. And same goes for Michael Chiklis and Susan Storm and Richard, Mr. Fantastic. All of those characters feel too subtle, but the one who personality feels like is the least subtle and of their personality is, well, Johnny Storm in both films, so that's why I say he's the best character. Michael Chiklis is the second film, and the third it would be Mr. Fantastic and fourth. Well, it's Jessica Alba in both Fantastic Four films. And I'm just going to say, I think the one in Roger Corman one played better job as Susan Storm than Jessica Alba. I don't know why. And I think that she was more well-written, and same goes for Mr. Fantastic, the Roger Corman one. He was better acting and more well-written, because but same can't be said for Johnny Storm and The Thing. Because the better one for The Thing and Johnny Storm of adaptation is the Michael Chiklis and Chris Evans one. That were the two Fantastic Four films, and the only Fantastic Four that ever made a sequel. So, yeah. So Michael Chiklis, I felt like didn't quite bring his A game like he does in pretty much every other thing he's in. Like, he did a better job playing John Belushi and Wyatt, which the film was absolutely horrifyingly bad. Like, every decision scared me of that story. Like, actual scared me. And it was also every decision of that story, Wyatt, starring Michael Chiklis as John Belushi, was absolutely stupid and made no sense. And so, it's the worst Chiklis role he has ever taken, but it's not the worst acted that he's ever taken. It's the worst written Michael Chiklis thing that he's ever done. Was well written, and the worst thing that he's ever acted in is the Fantastic Four movies, because I mean, Michael Chiklis sucks the same reason Christian Bale and Heath Ledger sucked in the Dark Knight 2008 film, because I know they can do better performances than what they're given. Either that death might be fully and completely, or they were all the good performance were edited out of the film, and they only edited this film when they're not doing such a good job. So yeah. Which was sadly the last role Heath Ledger actually played. To most people. Yeah, there was another movie that he played, I think came out a year after The Dark Knight in 2010 or 2009. I can't remember what it was, but didn't do that well, which was a much better film, because that's mostly due to Heath Ledger and Johnny Depp blending the differences between different identities and of the main character. Because both of them act so different, but also act so similar. I'm going to get to that movie some other time, but that is a much better film to go out on than Dark Knight. And I think that came out after a year or two after the Dark Knight came out. So maybe, I guess, so. And I hear that was the last thing he worked on before the Dark Knight. I mean, after the Dark Knight, and I hear, after worked on that film, he passed away, which wasn't the Dark Knight, but another film, starring Johnny Depp and another big name, other big name actors, and Johnny Depp and Heath Ledger played the same role, but they kept on switching faces. For some reason, that wasn't quite explained anyway. Anyway, Heath Ledger gave his A game in that film, and I'm glad that he gave his A game in ways he couldn't give to the Joker in The Dark Knight 2008 film, and same goes to Christian Bale. So, but he did give his A game in The Dark Knight Rises. So, I say that's a good note to go out on. So, the same goes for Michael Chiklis as the same, and he gives his A game and this. This is the best written Michael Chiklis performance and the best performed Michael Chiklis performance in a show or movie I have ever seen him in. Because he plays all these elements of Deathstroke character, who is Slade Wilson. He plays you feel like he truly cares for his family, but he's not always there for his family. And so he ends he also plays he's also really nuts and a bit of a cold-hearted killer, and but he believes that what he's doing is truly right, and you kind of believe that he believes that, and this is respect you have for him, even though you don't always agree with each decision he makes. So the story is Deathstroke suiting up after saying that he's going to be on the first plane tomorrow morning, and come home, and he reads his son this bedtime story about knights and demons, and the knight slaying the demons, all on his own. And the legend goes that the knight work was done, and he was now a legend. And lived on as a legend, and because his work was done. So he goes out as Deathstroke and just murders a bunch of dictators, and tells this dictator to stop working for the Hive and quit his dictatorship. And oh yeah, he also gets paid by the dictator, because he says he needs someone to pay my also I need someone to pay my my paycheck. And he says, I would be happy to, he says, and then nervous smile, and a very scared smile, he says. And he just completely says, okay, whatever you want, just don't kill me, he says. So he's like, yeah, that kind of smile. So, he has paid, and then, this guy called the Jackal comes to his house while he's away. And, the Jackal kidnaps his son and reveals Slade Wilson's true job as Deathstroke, and that he's been keeping against his son and family as a secret all those years. Which was before he married his wife. So, and he came clean about cheating on his wife before they got married, and he says he promised to be honest with her from now on out, but he wasn't 100% honest because he kept his identity of Deathstroke a secret. So he ends up losing his kids and his wife after he saves his kid's life, and after he almost dies and bleeds to death, and after he gets his neck sliced before Deathstroke can get to the kid, after he takes down Jackal and Jackal's daughter, which that's a twist later on, and that's why the Jackal sort of manipulates his family into working for him. His kid and his daughter, who is later to reveal the daughter that is secretly Slade's daughter, that he finds this out, and is the person that he cheated on. Is the person that he slept with, and when he cheated on his wife before she was wife back in the day. And anyway, from then on out, it focused on, after Slade Wilson supposedly gets killed off, it focused more on the relationship, and gets betrayed by his son, after he feels betrayed by his father by not being there for him as a kid, and just leaving them, and him and his mother, and he also feels betrayed by his mother because his mother sort of did the same thing by leaving him on school to protect him, but she wasn't focusing on what was really important, was being a mother to a kid. Instead, she focused on all this energy on getting her edge back and her fighting skills back, which is exactly what Slade was focusing on. So she failed mothers, and they both failed as parents because they weren't there for either one of their kids. At some point, she was a real mother, but then she stopped being there for a kid once she realized she's off her game, and she realized that's her fault, and she was focusing on being a mother that was her weakness, and that was a mistake. And that wasn't a mistake. The mistake was when she stopped being a mother. This is why in Slade, and I just want to say, the mother is my least favorite character. You know why I like her? She's my least favorite character because she never realized that she's no different than Slade. That she failed as a parent too, to both their kids. And Slade has the balls to admit that he was wrong. Twice in the film. He says to his daughter, "You're not the same as me. You're not even the same as the Jackal. You were there for my son when I wasn't. Sure, you manipulated him, but it wasn't your intention. Your intention was to love them and be there for him. And when I was never there for him. Just like I was never there for you. But I'm here now and I'm sorry." He says in his, but he says that with his emotions. Says I'm sorry, and also he says that he's here with his emotions, with his heart, as in his emotions, and despite the tone of his voice, you can tell that's what he means. He's sorry, but he doesn't. He's not ready to say he's sorry, but you can tell that he's saying that he is here now. He's not ready to fully come clean with his emotions. And his wife points out that he has very secret, he was lying to himself, and he has very certain elements of his past, of his identity. And when he faces off the Jackal, he decides to save his family, even if he's putting his own life on the line for the people he loves, for his family. So he realized that says to his wife, "You're right about me. I was burying pieces of myself. I wasn't, I wasn't a good father. I failed as that too. I wasn't even the knight that Jason wanted me to be, as in the hero he wanted me to be, and he never was. He failed as that also, and he failed as a husband. He's always said he failed as a husband, but he says, hopefully now I can be the man you always want to be, the one person the hero that Jason always wanted to be." And his last words is, "Jason, I love you," to his son. And he's communicating telepathically while he's following stories out of the airplane in midair and fighting the Jackal. And Jackal says, "This isn't going to end well for you, Slay." This is to Slay. And Jackal says the reason he admits the reason why he manipulates the family and pulls strings and gets to get them to turn against Slave is because he killed his only daughter, his only flesh and blood, his only family, the Jackal's only family. So this is straight up revenge in person for Jackal, even though he's the head of Hive. This is straight up revenge. And he was kind of like a daughter to Slave's daughter when she didn't have daughter, but she revealed before they even met each other, the Jackal and Slave's daughter, she had her brother communicating through him telepathically her entire childhood before she even met the Jackal. So she did have family after her mother got ran over by a car. Yeah, and it's pretty messed up. It's a little gruesome. You see the scenes when Blaze taking out bullets of himself that would have to go shot several times when he almost dies after even though he almost dies as thing, but his ex-wife decides to technically she's still his wife, but they're not connecting like they used to, because since she found the truth about Slave. So they're not on, they don't have their pattern until the third act. When he says, "I wouldn't dream of talking you out of this. You're the finest commanding officer I ever met. Plus you get bonus for because I seen you naked," he says. And she looks at him like, shh. It looks at him like go to hell, and he calls him. I think it says to him, "Go to hell," to some asshole. She says some sort of mean come back to him. It's funny. The whole scene's funny when they're about to blaze glory, when they're about to blindly fly right in on the Jackal's plane to save their kids. And this is after the kids turn on the Jackal, and now the Jackals turn on the kids because they outsmarted both kids. So their life is at stake besides Slave and the mothers. And that's when Slave decides to make the ultimate sacrifice and decides to really become a knight. A hero that his son believed that he was. By attaching a bomb to the Jackal and delivering the line says, "This ain't going to end either well for you, you son of a bitch." He attaches a bomb and they both supposedly blow up. Well, the Jackal's never to be seen. But Slave is literally opens his eyes when he's in one piece. And he's communicating telepathically to his son just when all three of his family members, his wife, his daughter, and son, thinks that he's dead because no one could, he couldn't possibly survive that, right? They're all thinking to himself, and he still needs time to heal, and so do they all. And he sends a telepathical message to his son by reading him the story to him. The ending of the story. The ending that you didn't hear about in the beginning. That the knight lived on as a legend. And his work was done. And Slave opens his eyes, and he's alive. In one piece on a deserted island. All armor out, but his mask came off. His mask is off because the Jackal punched his mask and broke his mask. but the Jackal's nowhere to be seen. So otherwise he, and the GI community, like, to our knowledge in this country, and also in the cons to my knowledge, the Jekyll doesn't have a healing factor like Slave, who is Deathstroke. So there's pretty much sure I'm pretty sure he's 100% dead, because the bomb was launched straight on his chest. The middle of stress was his highest. So and you saw and no one is standing, and it looks like, and I hope we see a sequel to Michael Chiklis' Deathstroke movie, which is Deathstroke's Knights and Demons, the movie. That's the full title. Because he is the definitive Deathstroke. He is Deathstroke. He didn't just play Deathstroke. He became Deathstroke. To me. So, because he proved that he is the Deathstroke. He was kicked ass. Then this film kicks ass, and this is my top 3 favorite comic movies. Is the Lego Batman in this order, and chronological order. The top 3 comic movies is Lego Batman the movie, Dragon Ball Z Super Brawl, and yes, that is a comic movie. In case you didn't know, it's based off of a manga. People will say no, it's not. It's based off of a manga. Well, technically, comic books and manga kind of are the same thing. There's the Japanese version of, different. You know how graphic novels are basically comic books, and if you didn't know that, but they call them graphic novels. The same can be said with mangas. There's basically the same thing as comic books. They're basically the same format. They just have different words to them. Okay. And that's, as far as I know, to my knowledge, there's like 3 names for comic books: there's mangas, graphic novels, and comic books. Those are 3 different names that I know, and I'm going to research. Maybe there's more than that for comic book names as nicknames. So there's 2 nicknames for comic books. Comic books, which is I think is the original nickname. The original name, and the nicknames are mangas and graphic novels. Anyway, Deathstroke, Knights and Demons, the movie, gets a 10 out of 10 for being that badass. I mean, this is so deep. This place is so straight, but also knows when to have a sense of, but really has a sense of, but when it does, the jokes land. And it is, as all once you know, all the most of the movies played for straight, it is somehow fun and engaging and interesting and deep and complex and all these other wonderful things, and action packed, lots of and a graphic action, lots of graphic action, as in really gory action. I'm talking about. And they're not overly exaggerated gore, but they're right now my ground with gore is the scenes that to warrant this. Okay, this definitely feels like a true R movie for a reason, because it feels like so right on a comic book adaptation and also a movie adaptation that is, this so happens to be R-rated, and it doesn't feel like it's R-rated just for the sake of it, just to intimidate people, even when there's not going to be that much R-rated things to it. And like Justice League Apocalypse War and Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill, besides it just doesn't feel like there's that much R-rated scenes or mature content. Or Logan. I feel like always for a true R-rated movie that it earns its rating is that you have to go all out. No holding punches, no holding the audience's hands just because they're afraid to handle mature content stories or graphic stories or swears or sex things or nudity things. You have to go all out on it. And that's what I think will also be engaging and fun. at the same time. You have to go on all these things. All these things have to be really, really to the extreme level, more the extreme level than ever when it's R-rated. And so that's why I'm saying this film earns its rating. I'm not saying, and when I said that you should watch every film with a daughter, I'm saying you should explore the rating system as a whole with your daughter, because exploring the rating system with your daughter or someone you love is a lot better than just doing it by yourself. And believe me, I explored it by myself, my childhood by myself, the rating system, by watching as many movies and shows as I could get my hands on, which was a lot. And I come to a conclusion: the rating system is absolute nonsense majority of the time, as in most of the time, and every now and then it will matter, because the movie will stay true to the rating, as in give you really lighthearted and funny, or really dark and twisted. And you shouldn't do both, okay? I'm just going to say right now, you shouldn't do both. And you can't make something stupid really serious, okay? Like Drag Me to Hell, okay? And, that was a really stupid movie, I'm sorry, but I can see why that was very PG-13, because it really shouldn't deserve the R rating, because, yeah, it has more gore than some other R-rated films, but that's not good enough for me.